Maria had always lived her life quietly, observing the world around her with careful eyes. She was gentle and kind, always willing to help those in need, yet there was a distance in her heart that few could reach. From a young age, she had learned that people could be unpredictable. Friends came and went, promises were often broken, and the warmth of family sometimes felt like a fragile illusion. She had watched her parents struggle through hard times, arguing over money, dreams, and the wound pressures of life. Though they loved her deeply, the tension at home left scars that she carried silently. Every time she thought about her own future, a shadow of doubt would creep in, whispering that perhaps life was too fragile, too uncertain, for her to risk her heart again. School had been both a comfort and a challenge. Maria excelled in her studies because she wanted control over something in her life, something reliable. She loved reading about faraway places, stories of courage, and accounts of people overcoming great odds. Those books were her escape, her window into a world that seemed fairer, kinder, and more predictable than the one she lived in. Yet, even as she read about heroes and families, she could not help but feel that happiness was something other people found, not her. She saw other girls her age dreaming about love, marriage, and children, but Maria could not imagine herself stepping into that world. The thought of starting a family, of entrusting her heart to someone else, filled her with fear. She feared disappointment, pain, and loss. The idea of opening herself completely to another human being seemed almost impossible. Her friends often tried to cheer her up. "Maria, you just need to give love a chance," they would say. "You are so caring and strong. Someone will see that and treasure it." But their words felt distant to her. She could see their sincerity, but they did not understand the weight she carried. Life had taught her caution, and she clung to it like a shield. Every time someone came close, she would hold back, afraid that if she allowed herself to care too much, she would only be hurt. She had seen the pain of separation in her own life, the heartbreak of parents who fought and drifted apart, and the sadness of friends whose relationships had ended abruptly. She did not want that for herself. She wanted stability, trust, and a love that felt unshakable. Yet she feared that such love might not exist. Maria's work gave her some peace. She was part of a community organization that helped families and children in need. Helping others gave her a sense of purpose and control, and it made her feel connected to the world without the risk of personal pain. She loved seeing the smiles on children's faces, the gratitude in parents' eyes, and the difference she could make. But even in this fulfilling work, she sometimes felt a quiet loneliness. She longed for companionship, but was terrified of opening her heart to someone who might not stay. Each day she wondered if it was possible to trust another human being completely, to believe that someone could be loyal, loving, and patient through life's challenges. Her fear was not unfounded. Maria had observed the world closely and seen too many stories of disappointment. Friends who had married young struggled with trust. Families sometimes broke apart over small misunderstandings. People she knew well could be kind one day and distant the next. She had learned that life was unpredictable, and she did not want to take a risk that might leave her heart shattered. The thought of starting a family with someone who might not stay, who might not honor her dreams and values, was too frightening. She imagined a home filled with tension, arguments, and heartbreak, and the image alone made her retreat further into her own protective shell. Despite the fear, Maria was not bitter. She cared deeply for those around her and believed in goodness. Her caution came not from cynicism, but from love, for herself and for those she might one day share her life with. She knew that if she chose someone as a partner and a parent, she wanted to give them everything she had. That meant she had, to be sure, to feel confident that the person she trusted would value her heart and share her dreams. Until that certainty arrived, she would remain cautious, quiet, and vigilant, shielding herself from the world's unpredictability. Every evening, Maria would sit by her window, watching families walk together in the park, children laughing and playing, parents holding hands, and neighbors greeting one another with warmth. She observed these moments with a mixture of admiration and longing. She wanted that joy, that sense of belonging, but she could not yet see herself stepping into it. The fear of disappointment and heartbreak kept her frozen in place. She imagined what it would be like to be a mother, to nurture a child and share a home with someone she loved, yet the fear always overshadowed the dream. She wondered if she would ever find the courage to trust fully, to open her heart without reservation. Her life continued in this quiet rhythm, balanced between work, solitude, and small moments of joy. Maria kept her fears close, protecting herself from potential hurt, while also hoping in some deep corner of her heart that someone might come along who could change her mind. She did not know if that person existed or if life would ever allow her to take such a leap of faith. Yet even in her fear, a small spark of hope persisted, a quiet whisper that maybe, just maybe, there could be a love strong enough to dissolve the walls she had built around herself. Maria's story was one of careful observation, quiet courage, and the persistent tension between fear and hope. She was a woman who dreamed of family and love, but had been shaped by the uncertainties of life into someone cautious, protective, and deeply thoughtful. Though she had not yet taken the step to open her heart to another human being fully, the journey of her life was only beginning, and the possibility of love lingered on the horizon, waiting for the right moment, the right person, and the courage to trust. One sunny afternoon, Maria attended a small community event held in the town square. It was the kind of gathering she usually enjoyed quietly, blending into the background, observing the people around her without drawing much attention. There were families with children playing on the grass, elderly couples sharing stories on benches, and neighbors catching up after long days of work. Maria loved moments like these because they offered a glimpse of connection and warmth, things she longed for but had always kept at a distance. As she walked slowly among the crowd, her eyes were drawn to a man who was helping set up a small display for local veterans. He moved with a quiet confidence, carrying boxes carefully, greeting people with a polite smile. Maria noticed something unusual about him, not a loud charm or flashy appearance, but a calm presence that seemed steady and genuine. She had never seen him before, yet there was something reassuring in the way he interacted with others. Children seemed to smile when he passed, and adults approached him easily, as if they trusted him immediately. Maria lingered near the edge of the activity, watching as he carefully organized the display. She could not stop herself from observing him, the way he nodded politely to people, how he listened attentively when someone spoke, and how he seemed genuinely interested in helping rather than showing off. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt a spark of curiosity instead of fear. She wondered what kind of person could be so composed, so kind, and so patient in the middle of a busy, noisy event. Eventually, their paths crossed. The man noticed Maria standing nearby and smiled politely. "Hi," he said softly. "I don't think we've met before. I'm Daniel." There was no rush in his voice, no pressure, only a gentle invitation to conversation. Maria hesitated, unsure if she should respond. Most encounters with strangers made her wary, but there was something different about him. She found herself saying, "I'm Maria." Her voice was quiet, but she felt a small sense of ease she rarely experienced with new people. They began talking, at first about small, ordinary things, the event, the weather, the decorations. Daniel spoke calmly, never dominating the conversation, and listened carefully whenever Maria shared her thoughts. She found herself opening up slightly, mentioning her love for community work and the small joys she found in helping others. Daniel nodded and smiled, asking thoughtful questions that showed he was genuinely interested. It was a strange feeling, for Maria, to meet someone who seemed to understand, who did not judge or push her boundaries. As the afternoon passed, they continued their conversation. Maria learned that Daniel had recently returned from military service. He had spent months away from home, facing challenges and witnessing hardships that most people could only imagine. Yet he carried no bitterness or prideful stories. Instead, he spoke about lessons learned, the importance of patience, and the value of supporting others in times of need. Maria found herself fascinated, Here was someone who had faced great uncertainty and danger yet remained humble, kind, and composed. For dear Maria, this encounter was unlike anything she had experienced before. Most people she met seemed either self-absorbed or distracted by their own worries. Daniel, however, made her feel seen and heard. She realized that she could talk to him without pretending, without fear of being misunderstood or judged. It was a small revelation, but it left a lasting impression on her heart. She found herself laughing at his gentle humor, sharing small personal stories, and even allowing herself to dream quietly about what it might feel like to have someone like him in her life. As the event came to a close, Daniel offered to walk Maria home. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should accept, but something inside her urged her to say yes. As they walked together through the quiet streets, they spoke about their lives, their families, and the small joys that made life meaningful. Maria noticed how patient he was, never interrupting, always listening, always encouraging her to share her thoughts. She had never met a human being who made her feel so safe, and she realized that for the first time, she was not thinking about fear or disappointment. That evening, after parting ways, Maria felt a mix of emotions. Curiosity, excitement, and a hint of hope stirred inside her. But there was also a small flicker of caution. She reminded herself that it was only a first meeting, that life was unpredictable, and that she had no reason to trust someone so quickly. Yet even with her careful mind, her heart could not deny the warmth she felt when she thought of Daniel's calm smile and kind eyes. Over the next few weeks, Maria and Daniel met several times at the community center. Each encounter was simple and natural: coffee after volunteering, walks in the park, and quiet conversations about books and movies. Maria began to notice patterns in his behavior that made her trust him even more. He was always consistent, always considerate, and always patient. Unlike many people she had met, he did not rush her, did not ask for more than she was ready to give, and respected her boundaries completely. For Maria, who had always been cautious, this steady presence was comforting beyond words. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench, Maria found herself sharing something she had never told anyone. She spoke about her fears, how she had always been afraid to start a family, how past experiences had taught her to protect her heart, and how uncertain she felt about trusting another human being. Daniel listened quietly, nodding gently, and when she finished, he spoke without judgment. He told her about his own doubts and fears, about the moments during his service when he felt uncertain and vulnerable. But he also spoke about resilience, hope, and the small choices that allowed him to continue trusting others, despite past challenges. Maria felt a shift within herself. For the first time, she realized that fear did not have to control her. Daniel's tawir, patience, kindness, and understanding made her feel safe enough to imagine a life where love was possible. She still had doubts, and she still worried about the uncertainties of life, but the seed of hope had been planted. She began to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, there were humans who could be trustworthy, who could be patient, kind, and strong in ways that mattered most. By the time autumn arrived, Maria's feelings toward Daniel had grown into something more profound. She still guarded her heart, still reminded herself to proceed with caution, but she also allowed herself small moments of joy and anticipation. She looked forward to their conversations, their walks, and their quiet shared laughter. Slowly, the fear that had once dominated her thoughts began to loosen its grip. She realized that meeting Daniel had changed something in her life. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily, gently, as trust and connection often do. Maria's encounter with Daniel marked the beginning of a new chapter. She had met someone who did not push her, who listened, who respected her fears, and yet quietly encouraged her to believe in the possibility of love. Though she had been afraid to start a family or trust another human, Daniel's presence made her wonder if her heart might one day open again. It was a small, cautious hope, but it was enough to make her feel that life might hold something beautiful for her, if only she allowed herself to take the first steps. As the weeks passed, Maria found herself spending more and more time with Daniel. Their meetings remained simple and unhurried. Coffee at the local cafe, walks through the quiet streets of their town, afternoons volunteering at the community center. Yet with each encounter, Maria felt a subtle shift within herself. She began to notice the small, consistent ways Daniel showed his care, not through grand gestures, but through quiet, meaningful actions. When she mentioned being tired after a long day, he would offer a supportive word or help with small tasks. When she shared a concern about a family member, he listened attentively and never rushed to offer solutions unless she asked. This steady attention made Maria feel seen in a way she had never experienced before. Maria had always been cautious with her heart, but Daniel's patient approach slowly began to chip away at the walls she had built. He never demanded her trust, never pressured her to share more than she was ready to share. Instead, he offered a quiet consistency that allowed her to feel safe. She began to imagine a life where she could let go of some of her fears, where love might not be as frightening as she had once believed. For Maria, who had always associated opening her heart with risk and potential pain, this gentle encouragement felt revolutionary. One afternoon, while they were sitting on a bench near the community garden, Maria found herself talking more openly than ever before. She shared stories of her childhood, the moments that had shaped her fears, and the dreams she had secretly held onto despite her doubts. Daniel listened without interruption, nodding and asking gentle questions that showed he understood without judgment. Maria felt a warmth growing inside her, a mix of comfort, curiosity, and cautious hope. She realized that Daniel's presence was teaching her something she had forgotten, that not every person could hurt you, and that trust could be built slowly, carefully, and safely. Over time, Maria also observed Daniel in other settings, and each time, her admiration for him grew. She noticed how he treated strangers with respect, how he helped neighbors without expecting anything in return, and how he remained calm even when situations became stressful or chaotic. For Maria, these actions were not just kind. They were proof that integrity and patience could exist in the real world, not just in the pages of the book she loved so much. Slowly, she began to see that Daniel's reliability was not temporary or superficial. It was a part of who he was. One evening, during a quiet walk through the park, Maria brought up a topic she had never spoken about with anyone: her fear of starting a family. She spoke about the anxiety that had followed her for years, the hesitation to trust another person with her heart, and the worry that love might always come with heartbreak. Daniel listened carefully, his expression gentle and understanding. Then he shared his own experiences, moments when he had faced uncertainty, when he had felt fear, and how he had learned to navigate those emotions without letting them control his life. He spoke about resilience, about making choices that honor both the heart and the mind, and about the importance of patience in building trust. Hearing Daniel speak in this way made Maria pause and reflect. She realized that she had always believed fear would protect her, but it had also kept her from experiencing joy. Daniel's words, combined with his consistent actions, showed her that fear did not have to define her. She could take small steps, slowly opening herself to the possibility of love, and still remain safe. It was a delicate balance, but for the first time in her life, she felt capable of achieving it. In the following weeks, Maria began allowing herself small moments of vulnerability. She shared personal thoughts she had kept hidden, talked about hopes for the future, and even laughed freely in ways she had not for years. Daniel never pushed her beyond her comfort zone. Instead, he created an environment where trust could grow naturally. Maria began to notice a change not only in her feelings toward him, but also in her overall outlook on life. She felt lighter, more open, and more willing to imagine a future filled with love and family, something she had long believed might be impossible for her. A turning point came when Maria faced a challenging situation in her family. A loved one was dealing with a difficult health issue, and Maria felt overwhelmed by worry and uncertainty. Daniel was there without hesitation, offering support in every way she needed. He helped coordinate care, listened patiently to her fears, and provided comfort without demanding anything in return. Maria realized then that trust was not only about words, it was about consistent, dependable actions over time. Daniel had shown her through his unwavering presence that it was possible to rely on another person without fear of disappointment. As the seasons changed, Maria felt herself growing stronger, more confident, and more willing to embrace life fully. She began to dream not just of personal success or independence, but of sharing her life with someone who could walk beside her through both joy and challenge. Daniel had become that person, quietly and steadily, showing her that love was not something to fear, but something to nurture, protect, and grow. Maria's friends noticed the difference as well. She was more relaxed, more joyful, and more open to connection. She still carried her caution, but it was no longer a barrier to experiencing happiness. Instead, it had become a part of the careful, thoughtful approach she brought to her growing relationship with Daniel. She had learned that patience and consistency could overcome fear, and that trust could be built gradually when someone proved themselves through actions rather than promises alone. One quiet evening, as they watched the sunset together from a hill overlooking the town, Maria realized that her heart had changed in a way she had never expected. She no longer felt the sharp edge of fear that had once dominated her thoughts. She was still cautious, yes, but she also felt hope, excitement, and a deep sense of trust in Daniel. For the first time, she could imagine a life where love was possible, where a family could be built without constant worry or doubt, and where she could share her life fully with someone who truly understood and valued her. The slow, steady journey of trust had begun to transform Maria's life. She had taken tentative steps toward opening her heart, guided by Daniel's patience, kindness, and unwavering respect. Each moment together reinforced the idea that not all humans were unreliable, that some were capable of deep, enduring love. For Maria, who had once been afraid to start a family or even imagine a future with another person, this realization was life-changing. She had discovered that trust could grow naturally, and that the right person could make fear give way to hope, courage, and the possibility of lasting happiness. Over time, Maria felt a change inside herself that she had never thought possible. The fear that had always kept her from imagining a family slowly began to fade. She noticed how Daniel's quiet presence and steady kindness had made it safe for her to dream again. It was not an instant transformation, but a gradual awakening. Each day spent together, each small act of consideration, and each moment of shared laughter chipped away at the walls she had built around her heart. She realized that she could begin to trust again, and with that trust came a sense of freedom she had never known. One afternoon, Maria faced a moment that tested her newfound courage. Her younger sister had been struggling with a personal challenge, and Maria felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She worried about how to provide support without getting overwhelmed herself. Normally, she might have retreated, afraid of the stress and uncertainty, but this time was different. Daniel was by her side, offering guidance and support without judgment. He did not try to take control. He simply stood with her, ready to help in any way she needed. That simple act of reliability made Maria realize how much her perspective had shifted. She could rely on someone without fear of disappointment, and she could allow herself to lean on another human being when life felt heavy. Their relationship continued to grow through shared experiences, both ordinary and meaningful. They spent quiet evenings cooking together, taking walks in the park, or visiting local community events. Daniel's actions consistently demonstrated patience, understanding, and care. He never rushed her to make decisions, never pressured her to reveal more than she was comfortable with, and never dismissed her feelings. Through these simple, everyday moments, Maria learned the true meaning of trust. It was not about grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It was about showing up, consistently, with a steady heart and genuine intent. Maria began to allow herself to envision a future she had long avoided imagining. She pictured a home filled with warmth, laughter, and children's voices, a future that had once seemed impossible. The fear that had dominated her thoughts was gradually replaced by hope. She realized that the person she could build this future with was Daniel, whose presence had proven time and again that love could be safe, steady, and sustaining. She could imagine sharing her life with him, navigating challenges together and creating a family rooted in mutual respect, care, and unwavering support. One day, during a quiet moment on a park bench, Maria shared her deepest fear with Daniel. The fear of losing control over her life, of being vulnerable, and of trusting someone with her heart and her future. Daniel listened carefully, his eyes calm and understanding. He did not dismiss her fears or offer quick solutions. Instead, he shared his own experiences, moments when he had faced uncertainty, and how he had learned to navigate fear with patience and reflection. He emphasized that vulnerability was not weakness, but a doorway to connection, love, and growth. His words resonated deeply with Maria, strengthening her trust and helping her embrace the possibility of a shared life. Gradually, Maria realized that love did not have to be overwhelming or dangerous. It could be gentle, patient, and dependable. Daniel's consistency had taught her that the right person could provide safety, encouragement, and partnership in all aspects of life. She began to feel comfortable imagining herself as a mother, as a partner, and as someone who could trust again without fear. For the first time, she saw a future where she could be fully present in love, free from the anxiety that had defined her for so many years. Their bond continued to grow, strengthened by small acts of care and mutual understanding. Daniel's support was evident in everything he did, from listening attentively when Maria spoke about her dreams and fears, to offering practical help in times of need, to simply being present during quiet, ordinary moments. These actions reassured Maria that she had found someone she could depend on. Slowly, she began to let go of old fears and embrace the joy of connection, realizing that trust and love could coexist. Maria's confidence grew as she recognized the depth of Daniel's commitment and character. She saw that he was not just kind in words, but consistent in actions, reliable in challenges, and thoughtful in moments that might seem small to others. This realization gave her courage. She understood that building a family was not about perfect circumstances or flawless people, but about trust, patience, and shared values. With Daniel, she felt that these foundations were already in place, giving her the courage to envision a life full of love and stability. As winter approached, Maria noticed how different her perspective had become. She was no longer consumed by fear or doubt. Instead, she felt a quiet confidence that she could face life's challenges with someone by her side who was patient, loving, and trustworthy. She began making plans, small at first, for a future that included both love and family. These thoughts, once frightening and overwhelming, now felt exciting and full of possibility. She knew that the journey ahead would require effort, understanding, and care, but she felt ready to take that journey with Daniel. By the time spring arrived, Maria realized that she was no longer afraid to start a family. Her past fears had been replaced by hope, trust, and a deep sense of confidence in Daniel. She knew that he would be there through every challenge and triumph, and that together they could create a home filled with love, laughter, and security. The journey from fear to trust had been gradual, patient, and deeply transformative. Maria had learned that love was not something to dread or avoid, but something to nurture and embrace when it was built on a foundation of respect, care, and unwavering commitment. With her fears gradually replaced by trust and hope, Maria finally felt ready to embrace life fully with Daniel. She began imagining a future that had once seemed impossible, a life where love was not dangerous, where her heart could be open, and where a family could grow in a home filled with warmth and laughter. She realized that the walls she had built to protect herself had also kept her from experiencing the deepest joys of life. Daniel's patience, consistency, and genuine care had taught her that vulnerability could be safe, that trust could be built, and that love could thrive without fear. They decided to take the next step in their journey together. Their relationship, rooted in respect and understanding, blossomed naturally into a deeper commitment. They spent more time planning for the future, talking about the kind of life they wanted to create, and supporting each other in their individual dreams. Maria discovered that sharing these plans with someone who listened, understood, and encouraged her made her feel stronger and more confident than she had ever felt alone. The fear that had once dominated her thoughts no longer had power over her. Eventually, Maria and Daniel chose to formalize their bond in a small, meaningful ceremony surrounded by close family and friends. It was not extravagant, but it reflected the values they held dear: love, connection, and simplicity. As Maria stood beside Daniel, she felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them together. She remembered the years of fear, hesitation, and doubt, and realized how far she had come. The courage to trust, to open her heart, and to embrace love had transformed her life in ways she could never have imagined. Marriage brought a new layer of joy and fulfillment. Maria discovered the beauty of partnership, the quiet support of someone who shares responsibilities, celebrates successes, and stands by her in challenging times. Daniel's steady presence made every day feel manageable, and his consistent care made her feel valued, respected, and deeply loved. Maria began to envision a family with confidence, knowing that she and Daniel could create a nurturing, secure, and loving environment for children when the time came. As months passed, Maria found herself embracing motherhood. The prospect of raising a child, which had once terrified her, now filled her with excitement and joy. She realized that her fears had been replaced by trust in Daniel's unwavering support and by her own growing confidence in herself. The lessons she had learned about patience, consistency, and the strength of human kindness became the foundation for the family she was beginning to imagine. She felt ready to guide, nurture, and love a child fully, knowing that her fears would not hold her back. The day their first child was born became one of the most transformative moments of Maria's life. Holding her baby in her arms, she felt an overwhelming sense of love, protection, and gratitude. She glanced at Daniel, who was smiling with gentle pride and quiet joy, and realized that together they had created something beautiful, enduring, and full of hope. The home she had once feared would be filled with tension and disappointment was now alive with warmth, laughter, and love. Every sleepless night, every challenge, and every small triumph became a shared experience that strengthened their bond even further. Over time, Maria and Daniel continued to build their family and life together with care and intentionality. They faced challenges, as all families do, but the foundation of trust, patience, and respect that had been cultivated over the years allowed them to navigate difficulties with understanding and resilience. Maria often reflected on her journey, from fear and hesitation to love and joy, and felt a deep sense of pride in the courage she had found within herself. She had learned that opening her heart to the right person could lead to a life of profound fulfillment, and that trust once earned could bring unimaginable happiness. Maria's story became an inspiration to others. Friends, family, and even strangers marveled at the transformation they witnessed. The woman who had once feared human connection now thriving in love, partnership, and parenthood. Her experience showed that fear, while powerful, could be overcome when met with patience, consistency, and genuine care. Daniel's unwavering support and kindness had been the catalyst, but Maria's willingness to embrace trust, to take risks with her heart, and to open herself to love had made the true difference. Years later, Maria often sat with her children and reflected on her journey. She shared stories of courage, patience, and the importance of trust, teaching them the lessons that had shaped her own life. She wanted them to understand that love was not something to be feared, but something to nurture, respect, and cherish. Her heart, once guarded and full of doubt, had become open, warm, and resilient. She had learned that fear could be replaced by hope, that trust could lead to joy, and that true love, when nurtured with care, could transform life completely. Maria's life, once defined by fear, was now defined by love, trust, and family. She had discovered that while life could be unpredictable, some things like patience, consistency, and genuine care were reliable foundations for happiness. The woman who had once been afraid to start a family had not only found love, but had also become a mother, a partner, and a source of inspiration to those around her. Her journey was a testament to the power of trust, the courage to open one's heart, and the life-changing impact of finding the right person to share it with.